and welcome to Ida and her books. I'm Ida and these are my books. Today I will be doing my wrap-up for the summer months, that is June, July and August. And because I read over 50 books, I decided to split this video in half. So I will be doing first my physical reads and then my audiobooks in the next video. So yeah, let's just jump into it. I have read 18 physical books this summer. I don't have all of them still with me, so I will hold up the ones I have and then I just put up a picture of the ones I've already gotten rid of. So yeah, let's just start from the beginning. The first book I read is one I've gotten rid of, and that is The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie. This is a Miss Marple murder mystery about a girl who gets found murdered in front of the fireplace in this couple's library, and Miss Marple is a friend of the family, so she gets called in to solve this, and it takes place mostly at this hotel. And it's so good. I've seen a TV adaptation of this previously and I really enjoy it, and so now I read it and I enjoyed that one also very much. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. The problem I have with the Agatha Christie novels is that they are quite slow. There's a lot of just talking, so in that aspect they're not that intriguing to read, but I like the stories and so I enjoyed it in a way. Next book I read was Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins, and this is the sequel to Hunger Games. I'm not gonna tell what this is about. Everybody's read this book or seen the movie already. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I did enjoy it very much, but mostly just the last third of the book, like that. The last 150 pages were amazing. Everything before that was just drama, and I didn't enjoy that as much, and yeah, so I give this one 4 out of 5 stars. Next book I read is Slutet by Strandberg. This is a pre-apocalyptic sci-fi story where we find out that the Earth will be hit by a comet in a couple of months, and this book takes place during the last 4 weeks before the comet will strike, and it's about these teenagers, and someone dies and they have to figure out what happened, or they want to figure out what happened before the world dies. I give this one 5 out of 5 stars. It is amazing, it is beautiful and heartbreaking and just all the feels, and I love it so much. And it's a little bit slow in the beginning. It sets the scene, what happens, what do people do when they know the world's gonna end, and how that changes people. And then when the murder happens, it really gets going, and it's so good, and I love it so much. Next book I read is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. This is the sequel to Scythe, which is about a utopian society where people don't die anymore. We have mastered death, and to not become overpopulated, we have these scythes that go around killing people to make sure we don't become too many. And the first book is about these 2 teenagers who become apprenticed to one scythe, and it's so good, and this is the sequel and it's even better, and I love it so much, and I need to get the 3rd book ASAP because I'm dying to find out what's gonna happen. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I love it so much. It is truly amazing. Next book I read was Neverwhere by Neal Gaiman, and this book I did not enjoy. This book was awful. I gave it 2 stars. I can see the appeal for other people, but I was so upset that I didn't like it. I've heard a lot of good things about Neal Gaiman, and I've read some of his other stories, and I've had some mixed feelings about them. I have read Coraline and I love the book, I love the movie. I tried reading The Ocean at the End of the Lane, and there was something that happened in that book that made me put it down, and it was disgusting and I didn't like it, and I just couldn't continue reading it. And so I got Neverwhere from my sister this Christmas, and I thought I'll give him one more chance. And boy, did I not like this. It felt like nothing had a point. It felt like it wasn't going anywhere. And also I had the illustrated edition, and I wish I had it now so I could show you. But what they did was that instead of having certain pages with pictures on them, with illustrations, they had the illustrations basically behind the text. So it would be like a white square behind the text, and then you could see the picture in the margins. which means you don't see the entire picture, you don't see what it's supposed to be a lot of the time. And also the last picture spoiled the ending of the book. So yeah, I did not enjoy that. It was terrible and I am so sad. But yeah, that happened. Next book I finished was Fullmetal Alchemist Volume 4 by Hiromu Arakawa. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's the continuation of the story about Edward and Alphonse Elric and their quest to get their bodies back after losing them in an alchemy accident, basically. And it is so good still. I think the books are moving quite fast, but they're very, very good still. And I just can't wait to read the rest of the series. It is amazing. Next book I read was Asgård, Sagor ur den nordiska mytologin by Karl Jonsson and Sofi Hjort. This is a history book for middle grade audiences, and it explains some stuff from the Norse mythology, and I enjoyed it. I thought it would be more just facts. It's sort of built up like you're following this witch, sort of the girl on the cover, the woman on the cover, and she tells you like stories from this mythology, and it's very interesting. I love the art and everything, but I wish it was more. It's very short. I would have wanted more from it. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. Next book I finished was Sleeping Giants by Sylvain Neuvel. This is a science fiction story written in interviews and about this woman who is leading a research team who finds this giant body part that seem to be part of a giant robot, and yeah, trying to figure out what that is all about. And it is really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I think the interview format creates a sort of distance from the events, and so it didn't really move me as much as it could have, but it was very good. I'm very intrigued to continue the series, and yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Den gula hästen, or The Pale Horse, by Agatha Christie, and this is also a murder mystery where a priest gets killed after visiting a dying patient, and it seems to have something to do with this old building called the Pale Horse and these witches who live there. I give it 3 out of 5 stars. This was also a very slow read, like the previous Agatha Christie, but I did enjoy it. I liked the mystery, but it wasn't about neither Poirot nor Miss Marple, who I very much enjoy reading about, so it is not the kind of story that I felt very connected to. It was fine, but not the best thing I've read. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Next, I read Tankeläsaren, or Graceling, by Kristin Cashore. This takes place in a world where some people have these powers. They have different colored eyes, and they have a power, and those people are called Gracelings. And it's about Katza, who has the power to kill, and she's being used by her uncle, who is a king, to kill people for him, as an assassin, basically. And then she meets this prince from another country who also has weird powers, and yeah, they go on adventures together. I really enjoyed it. I really like Katza, and I really like what they did with these characters, and I enjoyed this book very much. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I found out while reading this one that the next 2 books in the series are not about these characters, which is sad because I really like these characters and I would like to have more about them. But yeah, that is just how it is. But I really like this one. The next book I read was Shiver by Maggie Stiefvater, and this is a paranormal romance about a girl and a werewolf. It's kind of adorable and reminiscent of Twilight and that era, and I think it's from that era. So yeah, it was good, it was fine. It's not my kind of story. I don't read a lot of romance anymore, or at all, so yeah, it was fine. I actually gave it 4 out of 5 stars because it was compelling, and yeah, it's not the kind of series I want to continue on, because what drove the plot forward in the first book is not something I think will continue throughout the rest of the series. So I decided to stop after the first one and leave it at that, but it was good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. Next book I read was Lyra's Färd by Philip Pullman, the first book in this new prequel series taking place in the same world as The Golden Compass. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. It's about this boy who's like 12 years old, and he gets involved in Lyra's life when she is Lyra. in Lyra's life when she's like a baby. And yeah, it is really good. I really like the characters. I think there was a lot of setup, because on the back of the book it says there will be this flood and everything, and that flood is like the last third of the book or something. It's like past halfway before that happens, and so there's a lot of setup to get to where the synopsis on the back tells you the story will go. So yeah, it was a little bit tedious, but also you got to know the characters very well, and I very much enjoyed reading about these characters, and I really want to continue the series. The next book I read was Dan and Phil Go Outside by Dan Howell and Phil Lester, and this book was released after their first tour, The Amazing Tour Is Not on Fire, and about the adventures of that tour. I really enjoyed this book, especially after going on the tour and especially after following them on YouTube for many years, and then going on the tour and seeing them live and just reading about their experiences was really fun. I very much enjoyed it. It's definitely more like a souvenir photo book than like a novel or anything, which I didn't expect either. It's really like just flipping through a photo album with friends, and it's really fun to read it. And I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It was good. Next I read another Agatha Christie, and this time 13 vid bordet, or 13 at the table. This is a Poirot, and it's about the murder of this lord, I think he is. And right away his wife is suspected of his murder, but something is off and she has an alibi and something doesn't really add up. Something is obviously very weird going on, and it's very good. I enjoyed it. I think Poirot is very conceited sometimes and annoying, but I do enjoy reading about him anyway. I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars. Like the previous ones, it was very slow, very much just talking. I feel like not much was happening, but I like reading about the process of finding out who the murderer is. And they're always so like complicated and weird in these types of books, so I really enjoy that. Next book I actually both listened to and read, and that is The Amazing Book Is Not on Fire by Dan Howell and Phil Lester. First I picked up the audiobook, and it became quite apparent right away that the audiobook and the physical book would not be exactly the same thing, especially since it's a lot of pictures, and they state early on in the audiobook that they just gonna have to like explain what's on the pictures. And they also have some added stuff in the audiobook as they are like discussing making the book in the audiobook, because it's Dan and Phil reading it themselves, and it was very fun to listen to. And so when I got home after listening to this one, I picked up the book to look through the pictures and like read some parts again, and I really enjoy it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. This book is such a good representation of who they are and their personalities and everything that you've seen of them on YouTube. They have like different challenges and games and stuff in the book, things they do on YouTube, and it's very fun. 5 out of 5 stars. 5 out of 5 stars. I will definitely pick this up again. It's just a fun, easy read. Next book I read was Archenemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the sequel to Renegades, which is about a world where there are people with powers, and like 20 years ago the anarchists took over because everyone's powers had been oppressed, and the anarchists made sure that they wouldn't be anymore, and then the renegades took care of the anarchists and became the new government. And so it's about these 2 teenagers, one who is a renegade, one who is an anarchist, and how they like the anarchists try to infiltrate the renegades with this girl Nova. And this like part love story, part superheroes, and it's so good. It's amazing, and the sequel is even better, and I can't wait to read Supernova, the next book in the series. It is so good. I love superheroes, and it was a 5 out of 5 stars, and it's just so good. I love it so much. Next book I read is Mockingjay by Suzanne Collins, the last book in the Hunger Games trilogy, and I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. So the parts that I enjoyed of the first 2 books were the games, like I said just earlier in this video, and this book is so much not the games. Once they get into the city, and it becomes like a little bit more like the games, and that part was enjoyable. But there's so much just drama for the first 2/3 of this book, and even though it's interesting reading about the character who's gone through a lot, and she has PTSD, and she has all these psychological torments from when she was in the games, and it's quite realistic in that way. I hate the love story. It is the actual worst part of this entire series. In the first book it's fine, because she likes Peta and that's adorable. In the second book, all of a sudden she's like, but what about Gale? And no one cares about him. Like stop. Just stop. And it made me cry. It made me cry a lot, but only for like 2 pages. Like the very end of the book I cried. But the rest was just meh. So I give 3 out of 5 stars. Now I finally read the series, I won't be keeping it, I won't be reading it again. I'd rather just watch the movies or, just ignore them. But now I read them, finally. The last physical book I've read this summer is Monstrous Dota, or Fire, by Kristin Cashore. I already said that I knew when finishing the first book that there will be different characters in this book. It was still quite jarring to start this one and just know nothing about the characters when it is a sequel, but it was fine. It took quite a while before I started caring about the characters. There was so much I just didn't enjoy. I wrote like a long rant about this on Twitter. You should follow me on Twitter. I write stuff sometimes. I had a lot of like spoilery thoughts about this book as well, but like generally I didn't like most of the characters. There was so much that I was just like, but why? And I hate the name of the main character. Why would you name someone Fire? And this is Swedish, so it's translated to Flamman, which is, it's not even the same thing. Like fire is eld, Flamman would be like... I give 3 out of 5 stars. I started caring by the end, but yeah, I was just... Nyeh. Yeah, I still want to read the last one because it's once again new characters, so maybe they're better than this book. That is all the physical books I have read this summer, all 18 of them, and yeah, look forward to my next video where I'll be going through my audiobooks that I have listened to, and they are also quite a few, so that'll be a long video. Look forward to that. Like I said, you should follow me on Twitter. I have a thread where I talked about all the books I read during Mythathon, which was August. But if you like this video, please subscribe. I upload on Saturdays and sometimes Thursdays. And I will see you in my next video. Bye!